Welcome to The Bureau, the official podcast of the International UFO Bureau. Founded in 1957 and reimagined for today, we're fusing decades of discovery with next-gen tech to uncover the truth about unidentified anomalous phenomena. Join Executive Director Terry Keel, CEO Mindy Totfest, and Director of Research Melissa Madrigal. 3 generations, 1 mission: to investigate the unknown and bring the truth into focus. This is The Bureau.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bureau, where 3 generations of women come together to investigate the truth behind unidentified anomalous phenomena. I'm your host, Mindy Totfest, and I'm joined by my 2 beautiful co-hosts, Melissa Madrigal and Terry Lynn Kill. How are you guys today?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing great here. Thank you.
I wanted to start off real quick by thanking Sam Sheridan for coming in last week in my absence. And you guys did a wonderful job without me, and I could be out of a job. So thank you guys so much. But Melissa, I know that you did your presentation last week. Phenomenal job on that. We have had so much feedback on it.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to post out another video on our social media going over more of a simple explanation instead of something so far technical. I know that sometimes that one's really hard to follow. So we're going to get another one out there.
Awesome. Yeah. I sometimes have a hard time following your big words. So we could bring it down just a little bit and really show the implications, because it's important. Every aspect of what you brought forward is so important to the overall picture of what we were looking at. So I'm looking forward to that. If you can kind of make it a little simpler and put it more in plain English, you will be able to break it down, because I really want to hear the audience's thoughts on what all you put together. You have done such a great job on it, and I thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And just the fact that that's what you do with every case that you look at. And that's what we do here at IUFOB. It is really highly technical, and it's really wonderful. And again, thank you, because you did really do a great job.
Thank you. It's definitely something I will find all the dark corners, and I refuse to stop until I find every dark corner. Yeah.
So I know that you were looking up some of the historic cases from this week, Melissa. Do you want to tell us what you found? I know there's some that's like kind of hard to pronounce. So good luck to you.
The first one was I think it's pronounced Voronezh UFO incident. Voronezh, September 27th in 1989. This is the Soviet Union, and witnesses, including children and adults, reported seeing glowing objects that were hovering and then vanished and then reappeared, all alleged small beings emerging from it. So this remains one of the most cited mass sightings in Soviet history. It shows how significant UFO events have cross-cultural impact and how eyewitness testimony persists even under restrict regimes. Our second one was from 1990s in Scotland. It's a Calvine photograph case. The Calvine UFO photograph taken in Scotland shows a diamond-shaped object hovering near smoke trails and captured with civilian cameras. It has been featured in recent documentaries as one of the most compelling photographed UFO cases. This case underscores the ongoing power of photogenic evidence or photographic evidence in UFO discourse, and how previously obscure sightings are resurfacing in public media. The second one is another one that's hard to pronounce from Soviet Union. It's Petrosavats. Those are very interesting names. Phenomenon. So a luminous unidentified object was seen across a wide area, reportedly showering a city with light rays. And it was observed in multiple countries over several nights and sparked concern about atmospheric anomalies. The event challenges how singular sightings by showing how anomalous phenomenon can appear over broad regions, inviting multidisciplinary investigation in radar and atmospheric physics and in eyewitness accounts. So that's what we got for this week. And I'm sorry I couldn't pronounce those words better. Those
You
aren't
did
in my English
wonderful.
dictionary.
That's right. You did great. And we know that your generation did not get raised on phonics, but you really
We
did a
didn't.
good job.
Isn't that crazy? I see some of the kids these days, and I'm like, yeah, sometimes we still have to look up how to pronounce the word because we have a whole generation that weren't taught phonics. It's
Oh my goodness.
insanity.
We were hooked on phonics.
Yeah,
I know.
totally on phonics. Heck, at school, we got our fingers smacked if we didn't say things properly. So trust me, we really worked on it. But these would have thrown me. So you did great.
Thanks.
And I must say that these cases are very interesting back from 89, the 90s, and 77. It just goes to show you how much has been compiled by other countries other than just our own, and how important it is to stay on top of these things. So these are just things that happened within this week of history. And I'm sure there's many more, but we don't have time for all of those.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd like to just jump in and bring in our guest because we can't wait to get him in here. He is just absolutely wonderful. So our guest today is Jeremy Ray. And Jeremy Ray on the board of the IUFOB and a treasurer on the board and a seasoned former STAR team investigator with over a decade of field experience. He's a USA Army veteran, and Jeremy has served as a paratrooper and crash retrieval expert before dedicating his skills to UFO research. He has appeared on television many times, including the Alaska Triangle, and brings a rare perspective that bridges military training, aerospace awareness, and UAP investigations. So let's welcome Jeremy Ray to the Bureau. We're so glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yay!
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Jeremy.
Nice to
I'm
meet you.
glad to finally get you on here. You're one of my most favorite people.
Same here, Mindy. Yeah. So I'm assuming, I guess we're going to talk about UFOs. That's what I
just
think
a
we're
little
gonna
bit.
talk about.
And can I throw you a curveball? Because Melissa had brought up the Calvine photo. What are your thoughts on that? I know there's been some analysis on it, and people think that it's just a reflection image from above the lake. Do you know anything about it?
No. When did this come out? I'm so sorry. I probably have to see it. I've probably seen it. I just didn't know it was called Calvine.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know-
1990s.
Yeah.
I believe it was one that hung over the desk there for Nick Pope. And
oh, yes. Oh, yeah. The one that has the jet coming in. Okay.
There.
Yes. From what I know, there was a doctored image of it that circled around for a long time. And then that photo, the original, somehow was released. I don't know the details about it, but Nick Pope said that that's what he remembered seeing when he was a patent clerk in the MOD. And that's all I know about it. Yeah, that's pretty big if it's true. That's like a flying Walmart. I mean, that sucker's huge, right?
Yep.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, you never heard that before? Actually, in Stephenville, the sheriff described the object that he saw as a flying Walmart. That's where I got it
I
from.
remember that. Yes. Okay.
Very cool.
And I just
It's not
saw
my
Benno jump on. I wanted to say hi to Benno. He's always on with us, and so I want to say hi to him. Jeremy, let's back up and let's talk about your history as a paratrooper. I cannot talk. Paratrooper and a crash retrieval expert, and how that kind of shaped your work in UFO investigations.
Sure. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at crash retrievals. I've done crash retrievals in the military. They don't happen all the time. So I guess you could say I was lucky to actually have one. Well, in the military, I'll take a step back. I was an infantry, which means like a ground troop. Like if you play Call of Duty, that's what I did in real life. And I was a paratrooper, so I jumped out of airplanes. And I was stationed in the 82nd Airborne Division in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And we were deployed to Kosovo on my 21st birthday. Kind of weird.
Oh,
But anyway,
no.
yeah. So
No drinks
we were
for
in
you, huh?
Albania. That's just kind of weird. 300. How many days we have in a year? Why does it have to be my birthday? I didn't have my first legal 12-pack or 6-pack because you're not allowed to drink on deployment
Yeah.
until I got back in like September. But
Great.
we didn't go into Kosovo right away. We were in a country called Albania, and the mission or the task force that we were in was called Task Force Hawk. And we also had Task Force Falcon. But our job as infantrymen was we were supposed to guard the Apaches. And if any of them went down, we were supposed to, rescue the pilots and bring back the material. Now, in the military, you have a team called DART, and that's what they do. They're the experts. They specialize in crash retrievals. That's not what I did. I was infantry, but we were put as like, this is what your job's going to do while you're here. So,
Okay.
we had a crash. Right on the border of Kosovo, right before we went in, and the pilots lived. We also had another crash where the pilots didn't live. I'll talk about the one where the pilots lived. So anyway, let me break it down on what it's like. So we're supposed to land on top of a mountain, and there was so much fog that we couldn't land, so we had to land in a valley. And I was an assistant gunner, so I carried a lot of ammunition. Just imagine me real skinny carrying all this ammo, and I carried this huge tripod that we would use to mount a heavy machine gun called the M24 Bravo. I can't even talk, but it's like the next generation above the M60. M24. Yeah, it's been a long time, but it's a 25-pound gun, and it takes about 3 men to operate. So it's a
Oh my
3-man team.
goodness. So you were expert muscle then.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it's not the muscles. I would say the skinny guys could carry all the weight. It's the big guys that couldn't, because they're carrying
Really?
their weight plus the extra, so they would fall out sooner. So yeah, it was always me
Makes
humping.
sense.
So I had to hump all the way up that mountain because they couldn't land us on top of it due to fog. And when we got there, we had a platoon-sized element, which would, I'm trying to remember the exact number, be around 30 to 40 soldiers, maybe 50. And we set up a security perimeter. And I remembered the Apache was on fire, and we had to wait till that went down because there was missiles still attached to it and stuff like that. And we had an EOD team those guys are explosive experts. And then we had, I think maybe one DART person, but I volunteered. They asked for volunteers, and I said yes. So I got to get real close to the Apache while all the other soldiers were far out with the security perimeter to make sure nobody came in. And what I did is, I don't know if you guys know what a Gerber knife is, but it's like a tool that comes with Phillips and a screwdriver and a pocket
Like
knife
a
and a
Swiss Army
pliers.
knife.
Swiss
Yeah.
Army.
Yeah, it had everything. A little bit more
Yeah.
heavy duty, but that's what I used to take the missile pod apart. The guy was telling me how to do it because we had to separate it from the Apache. When the chopper crashed, the blades, of course, break apart and go everywhere. But it actually cut a nice little dirt ravine that I started digging and using that ravine because we have to put the missiles inside that because we're going to detonate it and blow it up. So that was my job, and I had a little e-tool, or it's called an e-shovel or e-tool. It's a little shovel that folds out, and I was just digging for hours. But anyway, we separated it. We hooked up like a strap that connects to a Chinook, and then we lifted the Apache out and left the explosives there. And then the rest of the team got on another Chinook, like the security team, and they all left, and it was just me and 3 other guys, and the EOD guys pulling out all this C4, and I only seen that in the movies. And I go, wow, hey man, let me help you with that. And so he goes, oh, here you go, and he threw me a brick. He just threw it at me, and I was so scared. I didn't want to drop it, and he was just laughing, and he told me, you can chew on it. It's not going to blow up. You're okay. He goes, listen, it's only going to take 1 or 2 to take care of all this, but we're not going to come back with all this C4 because if we get shot, we're screwed. So we're going to use it all. So he gave me the whole bag, and I think it was about 10 sticks of C4. And he goes, just whatever you do, make it look pretty. I want a brick of C4 on top of where all the missiles are kind of like in a circle like this. You have a missile all the way around. and I was just stacking it around the sides of it, and then taking duct tape and taping to it. And then he put a det cord to it. And I was like, hey, man, I want to see the explosion. I want to take a picture of it. And he was like,
Glorious.
no. He goes, no, if you see C4, C4 sees you. We're going way behind a mountain. Okay.
Yeah.
So we went way behind this mountain, and he detonated it, and it was like a nuke going off. We had a mushroom cloud. All my,
Oh my
organs in my body rung like a bell, and I remember seeing the dirt making
Oh, wow.
ripples. I mean, it was,
Sheesh.
man. Anyway, so
Real
I took a
deal.
picture of that. I took a picture of the crash, but no, they wouldn't let me get close to that, and that's probably a smart thing. But you
Yeah.
got to understand, I was
Well, we
21 years
appreciate
old.
that.
Yeah, I was 21 years old, and I was fired up to volunteer for anything. So, now your question was, how does that work in the UFO field? I would
Yeah.
say that me being on the site, being a part of policing the debris and kind of seeing the procedures on how we set up a security perimeter and wait for others to arrive to extract the material. I mean, that's a whole military operation right there, right? And
Yes.
we hear through Lee Spiegel's files, about all the crash retrievals and how they did it. And it's kind of very similar without the scientists and the engineers that are there to try to figure out how fast that craft was going when it hit the dirt.
Right.
We didn't do anything like that. We were just keeping, if there was any civilians or children, away from the site, because the reason why we detonated it is because so it won't harm anybody else, really, or the
Exactly.
enemy get a hold of it. But I've also heard, I mean, I'm very fascinated with, I guess you could say, I'm not an expert, but I've read so much about crash retrievals. I don't know if a lot of them are true, but a lot of them are pretty intriguing. I think the last one I heard was, and I'd like to have more information about it, about a firefight in between two aerospace agencies over a crashed UFO. Have you ever heard about that?
Have
I think so.
not.
Is that the one that Clifford Stone or
I'm,
Schneider talked about?
I thought it was something recent or something that
Oh,
leaked recent with the
oh,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I've
Okay.
actually, unfortunately, I've never done a crash retrieval of a UFO, and that's what I would love to do. So if IUFOB ever gets a case where we've got a crashed UFO down the street and I can get there, Johnny, on the spot, yeah, I'll be right there.
you and
I
your
mean, come
Swiss
on.
knife have a deal. Your Swiss knife have a deal.
Yeah, make sure you bring a Gerber knife. I can't believe it. It's amazing what a Gerber can do. It could take apart an Apache helicopter. But
Yeah.
yeah, I actually was fortunate enough that my grandmother, back in the 90s, they had those disposable cameras that you can buy at Walgreens or whatever, and she
Yeah.
sent me a bunch. So that's how I got to take pictures of it. And a lot of my veterans and soldiers appreciated that I did all that, because we have memories of stuff that
Yeah.
we've done. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Different
Yeah,
days
Here, I
back
have a
then.
question for you.
Yeah.
sure.
You've investigated cases across several states. So, what has been your most challenging or revealing case so far?
Well, oh man. Well, the challenging ones would be kind of boring for this podcast, so I'm going to skip those. They came out to turn out to be nothing anyway. Um, I've always talked about on podcasts about always the Bigelow Star Team case, because that was amazing. But for this show, I'm going to pick out something that I don't talk about. So there's been a handful of cases that I'll never forget. One happened to do, let's see, yeah. One happened to deal with two sheriff's deputies. I don't know if I ever told you the story about that, Melissa, but anyway,
I
I'll
don't
share it
think
with the
I
audience.
have heard that one before.
Okay. Yeah. So they want to be anonymous. So I'm going to do my best not to give out the location of the town and all this kind of stuff. But it was in Texas, and it was right after hunting season, deer hunting season. And there was a lot of complaints out in the wilderness that there was people poaching. And that means hunting when you're not supposed to be hunting. It's not during the season. So these sheriff's deputies set up like a little stakeout to catch these guys, and they had their lights off, everything turned off in their vehicle, and they were out there. I think it was like their fourth night that they were out there, and all of a sudden, this ball of light, just they're watching it, They see a ball light in the sky and they go, "What is that?" And all of a sudden, it's almost like the object kind of heard what they said. It kind of stopped and it was like, "Oh, you talking to me?" And then it swooped right over on top of them, right? So they're bathed in this light. They've lost radio. The whole engine shuts down the car. We're talking right out of Steven Spielberg's movie. Everything, the engine shuts off. Everything's eerily quiet. They're freaked out. They don't know what to do. And I think this light shined on them they said it felt like an eternity, but it could have been a minute, could have been 40 seconds. They were frozen and with fear. Didn't know if they were going to die or not. That thought crossed their mind a lot because there was like a vibration of a hum that, when they were bathed in that light, and they were kind of just frozen in fear. So anyway, the light retracted back up, took off down the road. They're watching it go down the road, and about where it gets kind of small, they jump in fear because their car turned back on, and everything turned back on, the engine, the radio, the lights, and all that. And so what did they do? They got on the radio and said they're in pursuit of an unknown object and started to chase it back into town. Now, this highway, I think there were probably, my best guess, 10 miles out of a town that had a population of around 65,000 people. You can call that a city or a town. It looks like a city,
Right.
but it's a small town. Everybody knows your business kind of thing. So anyway, this is about 3:00 in the morning. They're chasing at it, and what they saw was it went right over the city and then shot straight up. But when it did, it was a big flash of light, and it lit up the whole night as like noon. It was like blue sky. You can see the clouds.
Wow.
It was like lunchtime when it skyrocketed and went straight up.
Was
When
that
that
recorded?
happened, yeah, this is all documented. This is the police took care of all this stuff. So they
Was it
did a whole
released publicly?
investigation. No, it was released to me, and I'll get to that in just a minute.
Okay.
We'll get to the end of this. So anyway, this thing shot straight up. All the power in town went out, and then there's another town that's about a 30-minute drive away. They lost power too. Okay.
Wow.
At the police station, they have a backup generator for dispatch. So when they do lose power, that went out too. So they had like 30 minutes of no power. Everything came back on, and it was such a hoot. A lot of other officers saw it, and they decided the guy wrote up the report and decided to conduct his own investigation and reached out to the power company. I almost said the name of the power company. I shouldn't do that. But the power company said that there was no transformers that blew, and they couldn't figure out why they lost power. It was an unknown. So he put this in his police report. Okay. Now, to answer your question, Melissa, in that small town, if you get pulled over with a joint or a roach in your car, they're going to put your name in the paper. Okay.
Lord.
It's just one of those type of towns. So reputation's very important, that kind of thing. So anyway, back to the sheriff's deputy. He handed it over to his supervisor, and the supervisor says, "We don't accept UFO reports. This is a great report, but we're not going to accept it. We're not going to file it. You can hold on to it, but we don't deal with it, and we're not going to release this. It would damage their reputation." This is 19. Hold on, what year was this? Well, anyway, it was during the years when UFOs were taboo. Okay, so it's basically, so he held on to this report for years, and I had a case where that's a whole nother long story where a UFO possibly landed, and I talked to a bunch of cops, and I handed out my UFO card, and I was like, "We'd love to have a report." Well, they never got back to me on that, but that sheriff deputy got a hold of that card and said, they were like, "Hey, your case that happened years ago, why don't you turn over your police report to him?" So that was a very, very interesting case because I got to talk to both of them. I got to go see where they did the chase and all that kind of stuff. And they were really they were hoping I had answers for them. I didn't. I don't. That's why they did all that, because it bugged them for years. They never had an answer.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
It sounds so eerily similar. That's why I asked you if it's public, because years ago, you're almost describing the exact same thing. I didn't investigate it. I wasn't there yet, but it's like identical. What you're talking about, the whole, and so I just found that fascinating. I want to go and find that again.
Are you
Well,
talking?
when we get off air, I could tell you the town and whatever, but I
Okay.
promise you it's not what you think, because I never told anybody, because it
No,
was
I'm just saying that I'm
uh
wondering if it's somehow like it's just a very similar scene. And so I'm
Yeah.
oh
wondering,
yeah,
like, you know?
very much so. If one of my good buddies, Richard Lang, he deals with law enforcement and stuff, and this is a common thing that happens, where
Yeah.
UFO shines over a police car, they lose radio dispatch, they chase after. There was actually one case where two different jurisdictions worked together chasing a UFO across state lines.
Are you talking
There's
about
many cases.
Trunbull or something, Ohio? Actually,
Yep.
next week, Dustin Hendricks talking about
Oh,
that very case and talking about some of the police chases and stuff. I bet that's what you're talking about too, Melissa. So we did have a question from the audience, and Wyatt said, "Why
sure.
all the secrecy, Jeremy? Why can't we know the name of the town?"
Oh, I mean, I can, but I just doing it for. I cannot give the names of
The
People.
officers,
sheriff's deputies, because they. It's just that patient confidentiality type of agreement that I had when I was
right?
doing these cases. The town. I mean, I don't want to narc out everybody, because it's a nice community and they
You don't
trust
have
me.
to. You don't have
So
to.
that's why I won't say it.
Okay.
But
We respect that.
yeah, I mean, it's a small town in Texas, right near the Gulf of Mexico. That's about
There
as
you
big
go.
as hand as I'm gonna get. So sorry about that. The secrecy. Why all the secrecy? Um, that's a good question. If you're talking about UFOs in general, why does the government not spill the beans and tell us everything and tell us about? Well, that's what we're trying to find out. I mean, that's kind of it's not like my movement, if you want to call it, is just finding out the truth. That's what we're
Right.
trying to find out. And
Mhm.
secrecy is like a speed bump, and most of the time it's unnecessary. And that is a great question, and hopefully in our lifetime we'll find out why they kept it secret from us.
I'm pretty
Right.
sure
I mean,
we
I can
will find that
speculate,
out.
but I don't know. So
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sure we will find that out because it's come to a point now where we're doing the giggle factor on them. They used to do the giggle factor on us, and we've
Very
reversed that
true.
now because I laugh at the government because I think to myself, what are you hiding? We already know the extraterrestrials and the different things that have happened in the earth here we have all been given information about, and I think sometimes we might know more than they do. I'm not completely sure we don't. But moving along, so tell us about your personal UFO encounter and how it actually influenced you and your decision to pursue the field of uh, ufology more and take it so seriously.
Well,
Uh,
it was like when I had that sighting, which I need to back up and explain it, but a little switch in my brain changed. My
yeah,
thinking changed. It
yeah,
affected me that much.
yeah.
So I was like a normal kid, teenager growing up, had the dreams of getting the car and getting the girlfriend and, just like any other teenager. And that was my focus, just like all of us. But that UFO kind of changed everything is what I'm trying to say. But I went to a military school in Harlingen, Texas called Marine Military Academy. And I basically lived out there, but I was able to come home on Christmas and Thanksgiving and spring break. So this was spring break. It was March the 20th, 1996. The town, or my hometown, was called Victoria, Texas. And I lived in a neighborhood called Bramblebush, a real nice neighborhood, good people, good neighbors. Everybody looked out for everybody. Just the Texas hospitality type of neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody. I was walking over to a friend of mine house that lived on the other side, and I just was walking. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Came around the corner, and there's this bright light hovering about the height of a telephone pole right there in our neighborhood. Um, it looked like a light, like the sun bouncing off a chrome bumper. It was really bright. It was brighter than the sun, but when you look at the sun, it hurt your eyes, and when you looked at the object, it was it didn't hurt your eyes. It was weird. It looked like like for me, it looked like it didn't belong there. It looked like some cheap Star Trek special effects that someone drew up there with a crayon. It didn't look right. So I stood there thinking it was some kind of weather phenomenon or something. And I just stood there. I didn't think UFO or aliens or anything. And I just think about 5 minutes went by and I couldn't figure out what it was.
What year
And I'm going
was
to find out what it is. It was
what year
March
was
20th, 1996, March 20th, 1996.
Thank you.
3 o'clock, and it was a Wednesday. I remember this just like it happened yesterday. So I said, well, I'm not. No one's going to believe this, and if I try to explain this to anybody, it's just going to sound weird. Let me get some neighbors out of the house, and let me get some, because I think I was just about to turn 18, so I kind of wanted an adult to tell me what this was. So I rang one door. And I didn't know these neighbors. I seen them mow their yard. And so I just introduced myself. I said, hi, I'm Jeremy Ray. I'm your neighbor down the street. I just happen to be walking through the neighborhood and I see this light in the sky and I can't figure out what it is. I was hoping you could tell me what it is. Could you tell me what it is, sir? And he had a little awning so he couldn't see. And he had his shirt off. It's hot in Texas. And he walked out, looked up at the object. And actually I thought it was over here. So I thought it was gone. I was like, oh, dadgummit, it's not there no more. And it actually was over here. And he saw it and he looked at me, and I can't act it out, but his eyes got real big. And I don't know this man, but he was like, holy Mary, Mother of God. And he just beelined it to his door and slammed the door shut. And I was like, that's a little eccentric, or I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird, because I'm not used to seeing grown-ups freak out like that. So I was like, I'll find a reasonable explanation. Let me knock on this neighbor's door. And by the time I got halfway to ring their door, he comes out with a shirt on, camera, sunglasses. He's grabbing everything, and his wife's coming out. And so I turn around and I go, wow, this is going to be an interesting day. I'm more paying attention to them than the object in the sky, just on how they're reacting. And I walked up to him and I was like, yeah, this must be something special. Do you think it's like a kite or something? And they were like, no. We don't know what it is. And while you're walking towards us, it's following you. And I was like, no, it isn't. It hasn't moved. And they're like, yeah, it is. I was like, look. So I turned around. So they're like standing here. I'm standing here. And the UFO's over here. I mean, it's like behind me. So I turned back around to walk towards the object. And they're telling me it's backing up, but for me, it's right there. I just can't get to it. So you had blue sky. There was like no clouds, so it really wasn't a point of reference. So it basically stayed with me with my steps. So when I stopped, it stopped. When I moved, it stayed. So it gave an optical illusion that it was perfectly staying still the whole time. And I'm trying to get to it, and I can't get to it. You know what I mean? So they see. They're standing still and they could see the movement, and I'm arguing with them saying, no, I'm standing still, it's not moving. And they go, well, Jeremy, it's not moving because you stopped. And I was like, all right, fine, I'm going to walk past you, and when I do, tell me what you see, because the sun is in our eyes and I got this bright light here, and I kind of wanted to look under. I was trying to get under the UFO so I could see what was up there. And so I walked past them, and sure enough, it followed me until it got to them and stopped. So Dick I think he said, this would be a perfect shot to take a picture because it's out of the sun, right? I said, all right, let's get a picture. So he winds it up, brings it up to his, to his eyes. And this is where I had the psychic, psionic consciousness connection, whatever fancy word you want to describe it, a feeling, intuition. It was, put the camera down. Like I felt like the UFO thought it was a gun, because the UFO reacted when he brought the camera up. Here's the sun. The UFO's right here. It went into the sun to where you couldn't even see the UFO, right? So it almost looked like it took off, but you could see these pointing things sticking out. So I just told Dick, put the camera down. So as he put the camera down, the UFO came to the exact position where it was at, and that's where we knew that somebody's inside there controlling this. You know what I mean? At least me, because I didn't really, that's the first time I saw it move. And the way it moved was so, I don't know, supernatural or whatever the word was. It looked like it didn't belong there. It looked so fake and weird. And I don't know, it just, the way it moved, it was no joke. So, and me being a hyper kid and fearless, they're scared. I'm not. I'm getting excited. So I
Yes,
want to
I can
flank
only
around.
imagine, Jeremy.
Oh man, you think I'm hyper now? You should have seen me back then. Hell, don't give me any sugar. You know what I mean? So anyway, I ran around, flanked them, and I got Mrs. Ladlick out of her house. Now all this is going on for about 15 minutes. Let me backtrack a little bit because I'm skipping some steps. Dick did take 2 pictures. One picture showed the sky with the object, and the other one showed Mrs. Ladlick's house. Like here's the house, but the UFO was at an angle, and I don't ever remember seeing it at an angle. I always saw it straight. You know what I mean? So that's strange, and I don't ever remember it being that low, which is weird too, of course. But like I say, I was trying to get under it the whole time. Mrs. Ladwick just kind of went, "Oh my God," and walked right out under it, and that's when it took off, and it looked like a rubber band snapping or like folding up on itself. There was pretty beautiful colors of looked like LED lights. Keep in mind, we didn't have LEDs back then. So it was like purple, pink, and blue. And it looked like the scales of a rattlesnake. And it went back and forth, and then it collapsed on itself. And I remember everybody's shadows went darker. No sound, no wind, no noise, no backblast area. But that sucker took off. I can't tell you what direction it went, but it was gone. And Mrs. Ladwick was blinded by the flash. She couldn't see. She just described it as like if you take your fingers and you push really hard on your eyes and you get that black fuzziness, and it takes a while for your eyes to adjust. That's what she had for a few minutes. And she was disoriented because she went right under it.
So have you ever had
one more
anyone go
thing.
back and investigate this? Or do you have the photos, Jeremy?
Well, the story gets better. Oh,
Okay,
this is a long one, and I don't think we got time, so I got to speed it up.
No,
I did see iron bars inside the craft because Dick brought his sunglasses, and when he's like, "You got to check this out. It's a solid craft," and to me, it just looked like an angelic light. You know, if I was in the medieval times, I would be down on my knees thinking this is a divine thing because it was more dimensional. It didn't look like a solid craft, but when I put the sunglasses on, I could see 4 to maybe 6 iron bars, very thin, and you could see the light pulsate around it, but in slow motion. Like you don't see the bars anymore because it's bright. Now you're starting to see the bars. Now you don't see the bars anymore because it was like pulsating around it. It almost looked like somebody was standing up there. Okay, so that described that. We had the pictures. I want you to know that Dick's house was very immaculate, dress right dress, not a speck of dust. All the books looked, this is important. Everything was perfect. If he knew where to find something, he knew exactly where it's at. Not like my computer desk. Like, where's the checkbook? You know what I mean? Right? So anyway, I had a photo. I showed it to a bunch of people. I took it to military school with me. I showed everybody. I brought it home and went over to Dick's house because I knew he had the other picture of Mrs. Ladwick's, the one that showed the house, and I wanted a copy of that. And back in the day, you turn in your film and you could get doubles and all this kind of stuff. And he gave that one to a kid down the street. And that kid took it into school and showed it for like show and tell first grade. Okay.
Oh, I bet.
And he's not, and so yeah, that's what he did. And that's when things started getting weird. So I wanted an extra copy of it and I never got it. So I think I went back to military school. Then I came back for another break and I was like, "Hey man, can I get those photos from you?" And he was really mad at me. He was like, "Don't ever talk about this ever again. Drop it, cool it. This never happened." And his wife was looking at me mean. And I was laughing because I was like, "Y'all are crazy." But somebody broke into their house and took it. Took the whole picture stack. Not just because they had a vacation in there. And I was like, "Well, that's okay. I got mine," right? And then I go home and mine's gone. And I just saw it the next day. So all of ours disappeared. Now, the only thing that I have is a copy of it, which doesn't do justice, that I Xeroxed. And back then, color printers were kind of new. And I went to the mall and got them to do it. So that's all I have left. But it's burnt in my mind.
Yeah.
But Dick believed that when he gave that picture to the kid and the kid took it to school, He got a strange phone call. And then after that, he said someone broke into their house, you know.
Wow. I wonder with like AI technology now, if you could use that to restore it. Because I know that there's like pictures from, the 20s and 30s that they've restored.
Sure.
And I know that it may fill in, but you would be able to, if you have a clear picture in your memory of what it looked like, you'd be able to say, yeah, that's kind of making stuff up there in this part. But I don't know, maybe you can look into that and see if you could bring out any detail.
Yeah.
It's just a blue sky, a straight line with a ball in the middle of it, like an oval ball. And that's where I saw the iron bars. And the line that went out, it was kind of transparent. It was almost like it was invisible. And we were seeing part of a craft that just wasn't fully cloaked yet. Because when you follow the leading edge, it started to become more transparent, but more bright in the center. And then, of course, when you put the sunglasses on, you would be able to see a metal structure inside the light. So
yeah, I know some people. Day Go ahead.
Changed my whole life. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but all that stuff as a teenager, getting the truck, all that, not important anymore. None of it. It was this. And I remembered one time when I was in military school, I was looking out the window and everybody's making fun of me about it, because you know what I mean? Nobody believes it. And I was like, well, when I get older, I'm going to stand up in an auditorium and I'm going to tell the world what I saw. And it just kind of got out of control because here I am now. Right. But yeah, that's where it started. And I've had other sightings throughout my life that were just as spectacular. But that was my first one. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that.
I was going to say, with you talking about the sunglasses, it makes me think of some people that are using that technique with taking photos and they're actually putting UV sunglasses in front of their camera whenever they're taking pictures to get better definition. So that's interesting that you noticed that so many years ago. But I wanted to change gears here. We got about 10 minutes here, Jeremy.
Wow,
this is what happens with us. So I want to talk about Alaska Triangle and how that experience was for you, and how did it bring UAP discussions more to the mainstream media? Like, how do you think that the media is doing as far as shows like that with bringing truth to the public?
Yeah.
Well, Alaska Triangle came out before Congress started taking a lot of things seriously, and the news was taking it a little seriously. So I felt like when I was on the show, they wanted us to talk about UFO sightings in Alaska only, because it was Alaska show. And I had better sighting reports from all around the world that could kind of relate to it, but I couldn't come up with anything good. I mean, we got our database that had a list of all these sighting reports, but I just decided to go with the USOs, underwater UFOs, right? And I talked mostly about that on the Alaska Triangle because there was a lot of cases of people reporting seeing UFOs come out of water in Alaska. I think that was important because they really kind of shifted gears and focused on one episode of maybe an underground base, underwater UFOs. And I talked about that submarine that took pictures of a UFO leaving the water, and they didn't know anything about it. And we kind of went down the rabbit hole. But anyway, they showed that rerun over and over and over. And a lot of people learned about unidentified submerged objects because of that. Most of the UFO documentaries might briefly discuss it, but they mostly focus on other things, right? And then all of a sudden, Congress comes out, and it's all about, these things are coming from under the water. So I thought that was really cool because it's almost like Alaska Triangle kind of prepped everybody for the blow that was coming a few years later. You know what I mean? But it was cool. We were supposed to film in Alaska, but the weather got so bad, so they wanted to film in Canada and pretend like we're in Alaska. And I've always wanted to go to London, and that's where they're from. So I just got on and say, how about instead of y'all coming here, let me go see you guys. And so they flew me out to London. They took me to the Cardiff military base. It was actually an active military base, and I was on a list to go in. and they filmed me where they do their SWAT training. They filmed a movie in that spot, The Hunt for Red October. They also a lot of Doctor Who episodes they filmed in this area. So it was kind of a famous British military place where they filmed a lot of things, and that's where they filmed me. And it was cold. Oh, I was freezing, but it was cold. I got to yeah. And we did talk about that pyramid. Well, there's a pyramid in Alaska, but the episode that we talked about on Alaska Triangle was Mount Hayes, and the remote viewer Pat Price, who worked for the CIA, that found a military base that was under there, and I briefly talked about that. I don't know if you ladies heard of Stanford Research Institute and all the psychics that came out from under it.
By the black triangle.
Yeah.
Was very
very cool.
Pat Price was like a superhero. He was great, and he was so good that they pulled him out of SCI, and he went to work for the CIA immediately. But we brushed over a couple of things like that. And what's interesting about Alaska Triangle, they show the reruns over, and a lot of people think it's a brand new show. So it's been going on for a while. So yeah, it was good. It was pretty cool. So Galactic Family Podcast. Oh, I can see the text coming up of what people are saying. I was trying to
I know.
Interesting. Yeah, everybody is so interested in this conversation, and it's wonderful because I love talking about USOs. My parents saw those when they were on their houseboats, and at first they thought we were drinking too much, and after a while they would rent their house out for 3 months out of the year for their vacations, and they kept seeing them on the Gulf of Mexico, now America, and they were just stunned. They could not believe that they kept seeing these green cylinders shoot right up out of the water, hover, and then take off so fast it was like they never even saw it. And they used to drink on their boats, so they would say, "Oh my gosh, we need to stay straight. We need to see if we're really seeing that."
We had a case back a while back. It wasn't mine, but as say we, there was a case where there was a canoe where a father and son were fishing, and the father leaned over and saw a light, and he thought the kid dropped the flashlight, and he's yelling at him like, "You dropped the flashlight in the water." Right. And then they realized, no, it ain't the flashlight. They started feeling the heat coming from the water. Dad gunned it. And I mean, he gunned it all the way to the shore, right? When they got out, they had this like fuzzy kind of like, you remember back in the day, our old tube TVs where you put your hand near it and you get that fuzz, like that static. Like, that's what they felt. So his brother was a physicist. And he said, "I want you to come down here because every time I get near this boat, it feels weird," right? So he comes down there, and the physicist started throwing bolts at the boat, and it started sticking. And the boat is made out of aluminum, and aluminum is not magnetic. So somehow that UFO magnetized an aluminum canoe, or boat. But yeah, crazy stuff.
After that, was there any health issues with those guys after that? I remember hearing about it, but I've heard of so many in the 20 years.
I would probably, due to the not Betty Barney, the Crash Lambert. You remember what happened to those ladies? They got too close and they had radiation. Bad. I haven't heard anything about these guys, but if that happened to me, I would be doing yearly checkups, no matter how
that's
good
such an odd descriptor, though, because I mean, anyone that grew up in the 80s, we know exactly what that feels like with putting your hand there next to a staticky TV.
Right.
For them to describe it like that's really descriptive. Well, Jeremy, we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna ladies, I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump over. I wanted to cover one topic with you because I was actually talking with Doc Rogers the other day on this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. With the recent hearing, did you see the video with the Hellfire missile?
Yes, I did.
I'm guessing you did. So
you want to hear my 2 cents?
Yeah.
Well, do you want to hear his? And then I'll
I want to hear his.
He had said that he believes that this was a test flight. Why were they using a Hellfire against an aerial moving target? whenever you would normally use an air-to-air missile. So he thinks that this was possibly a drone that was being focused on with the camera and firing an unarmed Hellfire just to see what kind of damage it would do. Okay. Because it lines up, and I said, aha, that makes a lot of sense why there wasn't a big kaboom. And being a civilian, I know what a missile is, but I didn't know the difference with the Hellfire and the air-to-air. And that is a key factor to know that the Hellfires are normally dropped on a stationary target rather than shot up, at a moving target. So let's hear your thoughts on that, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Well, what I really want to see is all that stuff that they have redacted, everything that's blacked out. I would like to know. I would like to have all the data, all the metadata, everything that triangulates who is seeing all this. All they do is they show us an FIR or F-flare infrared.
Tiny clip.
I mean, I would like to see the high definition color in detail instead of just the heat, But when I first saw it, I'm just going to be a devil's advocate. Let's just pretend this is a UFO. Why didn't the missile blow up? And then I was thinking, well, maybe because what we've heard about with the Iran, all this stuff with pilots going after UFOs, how they turn their targeting computers off, they use their own weapons against us, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they just deactivated the warhead. That's what I was thinking. And then the 2-3 pieces of debris that broke off, I don't know how fast this object's going, but it's still staying with it. You would think it would go different ways. It's still staying with it. So I didn't know if that was like some kind of defense mechanism. If they fired another Hellfire missile, maybe these little balls would go after it. I don't know. I don't know what this is. It's all speculation, and that's all we can do at this time because we don't have the data. I mean, we don't have really any data.
What would you speculate? Why would they use a Hellfire instead of air-to-air?
Yeah.
I thought this came from a drone. Like a drone was clocking this, right? Am I correct on that? I don't know. So we need more answers.
We don't know.
Definitely need more answers.
A true extraterrestrial vehicle could have vaporized anything if it wanted to. And this I'm sure of because I've heard many people in the military share when MiGs would lock on to a actual UFO, they would get vaporized. Literally.
Turned to dust or crushed. Crushed or turned to dust, ash. Yeah. Have you heard about that one that turned to ash?
Yeah, they said that the MiGs turned into flying trash cans.
Yeah, just crunched. And then another one, I heard like way back in the 60s, they were sending a lot of fighter jets up to shoot down these UFOs, and these guys did not come back. It's all hush hush, and we died in a training operation. You know how they did it. But stories from being yes. I always tell people, if you ever see a UFO, don't point your weapon at it. Make sure you're not even armed. Go the other way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because there's been,
it makes you think of Independence
it's a mystery. I think we need more information for that for the Hellfire missile. I just have so many questions and I'm not getting it. Yeah. So it looks cool.
Yeah.
I'll just give it that. But I think everybody's all in the same boat because for all the UFO colleagues out there, I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like this before. This is for real.
Right.
So, Jeremy,
I haven't heard one person. So, yes, ma'am.
Where can people reach you? I know that you're with the Bureau. You're on our board of directors. Can people reach you there through that email if they'd like to hear more of your stories or contact you?
Yeah, my email. I want to give it. You have my email, don't you?
Yep.
Oops. Are we done?
I guess so.
Nope. He's gone.
It's not 55 minutes.
He hit the wrong button. So Jeremy Ray, you can reach him at jeremy.ray@internationalUFObureau.com. And we love Jeremy. Thank you for coming. I'll call you after this is over. Melissa, if you want to jump to the audience prompt and we'll close this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
With aerospace technology advancing so rapidly, how do you think we can tell the difference between classified military projects and true unidentified, and what does that mean for disclosure?
Yes.
Awesome. And then Terry, next week we have.
Yes, we have Dustin Hendricks next week, and we are so excited. This is going to be another really riveting interview, and you're going to love it. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. And I just want to give a shout out to all the people who he's back.
There's Jeremy.
I was just you're muted. I just wanted to give a shout out to all the people who give us questions and make statements while we're talking. We see them and we thank you, and keep them up, because we really love, Benno, you're always on every week. Thank you. We enjoy your support. We're grateful.
Yeah, Jeremy, I threw out your email address for everyone. I'll call you right after. We're going to close this out. So as always, thank you guys for joining the Bureau. Visit us on internationalUFOBureau.com and follow us on social media to stay connected. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and never stop demanding the truth.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bureau. For exclusive content, follow the International UFO Bureau on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. From yesterday's sightings to tomorrow's revelations, be sure to tune in next time right here only on KGRA, Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern.